right, welcome everybody. We are so ecstatic to have you join us this evening along with these wonderful companies. My name is Nelson Reeder. I am an event chair with the local student chapter of SHRM. For those of you that don't know, SHRM is a wonderful community and a family really here that allows students that are interested in becoming HR professionals or entering the field of HR, different opportunities to connect with professionals, to enhance and develop the skills that are needed in today's workforce, as well as provide them with different opportunities to connect with others and network and do things that are amazing, such as the lecture series that we've been putting on. It's also my privilege this evening to introduce Dr. Sterling Bone, and I'll turn it over to him to talk a little bit more about this event that we have for you this evening.
Thank you, Nelson, and thank you to the amazing SHRM chapter here at Utah State University. I'm Dr. Sterling Bone, Professor of Marketing and Sales in the Huntsman School and the Director of our ProSales program. And I'm super thrilled that this event has come to fruition. This is one of the great fruits of conversations that I've had with Dr. Tim Gardner. And as we've worked together at the Huntsman School for a number of years now, we've always felt like there was this incredible opportunity and I hate to use the cliche word of synergy between what's happening in terms of the HR emphases, both at the undergrad and grad level, and similarly what's happening in the area of professional sales. And I'm so grateful that we have a number of alumni I'm so excited for our students to meet these amazing individuals that I've had in my classroom that have bridged incredible careers using their HR, incredible training that they received from the Huntsman School, as well as their sales prowess. And so I'm just really grateful this event's come to fruition. Welcome everybody. And as you go through this event, if you have any questions or would like to learn more about the ProSales program, I invite you to visit our webpage at huntsman.usu.edu/ProSales. And we'd be happy to schedule some time to meet with you. But thank you again. It's now my honor to introduce our moderator extraordinaire, Dr. Tim Gardner.
Thanks, Sterling. What we're going to do today is I'm going to give each of our 4 company representatives a chance to introduce themselves and introduce their company. The question I'll ask each of them is just a quick 2-minute description of your company and how you differentiate yourself from your own set of competitors with which you compete in the marketplace. After those 4 representatives have introduced themselves, I have a series of questions that I'm going to ask focused on each particular company. Other companies will have company reps will have a chance to chime in, and then that'll probably get us pretty close to the 7 o'clock time frame. And then we will, if we have time, we'll take questions and comments from students through the chat function. So if you feel like there's just something that I'm not covering through the questions that I have prepared, either send it directly or to the group, and I'll pick through there and ask some questions to take us through until 7. Then at 7 o'clock, we will stop the Q&A and we'll give you a chance to go into breakout rooms with the 4 company representatives and give you a chance to talk and ask more specific questions, or even ask some questions that you didn't get to talk about when it came up. So I'm going to just go in alphabetical order. We'll start with AwardCo, then Bamboo HR, then Paycom, then Workday. You could start with just a 2-minute introduction about your company and how your company is different and differentiates itself from its main set of competitors.
Yeah, absolutely. So AwardCo is a company based out of Provo, Utah. We started in about 2011 and have grown immensely since then. We solidified a partnership with Amazon Business in 2015. And that's when we really kind of started to experience that hockey stick, so to speak, in terms of growth. Just to give you an idea of some of the growth we're experiencing, I was about the 45th employee. I joined November 2019. And as of this week, we're at about 171 employees. We are not a VC-backed company where we've raised, hundreds of millions of dollars and then hired a million salespeople. Our model has been very thorough and intentional with the growth that we've experienced. Some of the customers we have are JP Morgan Chase, Zillow, Hertz, got Texas Roadhouse, L3 Harris Technologies. It kind of goes across the board. It's fun. L3 Harris is, they've got several of the former people in my cohort working there. And so it's a lot of fun to kind of go full cycle and be able to work with some of those HR folk. That being said, AwardCo is, what differentiates us is we had the Amazon capability. So we don't have a markup model. So when employees hit a major milestone or they get a gift or an award, they don't choose a product from a catalog, which is kind of common in the recognition space. What they're actually doing is we're live streaming all of the Amazon products that are available on Amazon Business, and they can choose products from there. So rather than saying, hey, employee, you've been here for 20 years, we're going to give you a new cookware set or a new knife set, or a Bluetooth speaker, a pair of headphones. They can actually go in and say, I want a Yeti cooler or a kayak, or I want a fishing rod, or I got a pull-up bar out of the platform for my home garage when COVID hit. And so there's a lot of uniqueness in that sense. Not to mention we have prepaid Visa cards, gift cards, hotels, tickets, and events as well for the redemption options. From a technology standpoint, we bring all recognition programs, so sales incentives, spot bonuses, referral programs, safety awards, attendance programs, service awards, onboarding, birthdays, basically whatever you can imagine. We are able to bring all of that under one platform. So all rewards and recognition programs take place from a simple platform. Employees can accrue points over time, and then, like I mentioned, get something that's meaningful for them with those points.
Thank you, Kirk. Cassie from Bamboo HR, could you introduce your company?
You bet. Hi, I'm Cassie. I'm with Bamboo HR, and we are a local grown software company. We started in 2008, and I had the privilege of joining starting in when did I start? I don't even know, Vanessa. It's a Thursday. I'm coming up on 9 years here. And I remember when I started, I was employee 21. And I like to tell the story of, it was me and one of the co-founders and a guy that worked in IT, and we shared a long folding table. It was a table, it wasn't even a desk. And I sat on one end, and then our co-founder, Ryan Sanders, sat in the middle. And then Jeremy, he sat on the other side, and I had one of those little buttons from the Staples office supply store, and you hit it and it says, that was easy. And that's what I put right between me and our co-founder. And so every time he offloaded work to me, he was allowed to hit that button. And it was a fun way to start my career at Bamboo HR. We are now almost 750 employees, and we're planning to hire about 500 this year. So it was a little bit slow because of COVID, but we're back up and running like crazy, and just having a really great journey and adventure. And I loved hearing Kirk talk about, AwardCo and the way that they've grown their business. We take a similar philosophy in that we try to be physically responsible. And, when the pandemic hit, we weren't sure what was going to happen with our business. And we were really pleased that we were able to work through that without having any layoffs for any of our employees. And part of it was because we try to approach things, yes, aggressively, but also responsibly. And so it was really great to keep our entire team together through that, and to really come out the other side of it even stronger and growing at a faster pace than we expected. So that's kind of our philosophy and approach as a business goes. But we're also a company that just cares about people having a great experience at work, whether it's the focus that we have in our software and delighting our clients and setting them free to do great work, or the experience that our team members have on a day-to-day basis at Bamboo HR. We are really, really proud of having an employee-focused business where we care every day what it feels like to come to work. And it started back with our original founders. They had two dreams. One, they wanted to do something that actually made a difference. And the second one was they wanted to enjoy coming into work every day. And so if they're going to enjoy coming into work, that means they need to create an environment that everybody else loves. And so from day one, it's always been this experience of, how are our team members doing? How does it feel to work here? And what are the best ways that we can support them and show that we genuinely and authentically care for them? So we like to say that we're quirky. We just kind of love to be ourselves, be unique, and find value in doing that. Some of our clients, like Stance Socks, if you like them, They're always fun. So next time you put those socks on, just know that we helped their team be successful and hire great talent. Jacksonville Jaguars is one, Wistia, University of Maryland. There's a lot out there, but we tend to focus on the small and medium-sized business space. And so because of that, maybe a lot of our clients aren't well known, and that's totally fine by us, because we're really here to lean into and focus on the needs that are unique for small and medium-sized businesses. Our vision is to set people free to do great work. And that's what we come together as a team to focus on every day, supporting our clients, but also internally making sure that our employees are empowered and supported in their success of doing great work at Bamboo HR.
Great. Thank you, Cassie. So I'm going to throw it over to Ryan at Paycom. If you could take some time to introduce your company.
Yeah. Good evening, guys. Thanks so much for having me. Really excited to be here tonight. So Paycom, founded in 1998 in Oklahoma City. We've since expanded, obviously over the last 23 years to 50 different offices across the U.S. We're a rapidly growing HR company that's doing, full cycle HR. So everything from, hire to retire and everything in between that. And so, we've got a great office, a great team there in Salt Lake City, as well as most major cities across the U.S. We're always, kind of looking for that right individual who identifies well with our culture and wants what we have to offer for, whether it be full-time opportunities or internships. And so, I think what separates us from a lot of our competitors is our software, more or less. Our software, has been kind of the prime focus of our senior leadership at Paycom. They've always put a lot of effort and a lot of emphasis on making it better each and every year. And so that's one thing I love about it, on top of the culture and the people I work with. But Chad, our CEO, has taken a lot of his own money and a lot of his own time, to make Paycom the company it is today. So I think it really says a lot about who we are from pretty much top to bottom. So excited to be here tonight, and thanks so much.
Great. Thanks, Ryan. So one more introduction, Michael from Workday.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for letting me be a part of the panel. So Michael from Workday started about 2.5 years ago, first company out of college, and I feel very lucky and fortunate to be here. I was telling Dr. Bone even before we really got started that it was thanks to him and a panel very similar to this 3 years ago that even got me introduced. And so I would just say congratulations to the students who've taken some time out of their night to be a part of this. You're investing in your own future and career, and so really pay attention, kind of dive in, and be excited, because there's a lot of cool companies out there and a lot of cool things to learn. So a little bit about Workday. Workday was started in 2005, headquartered in Pleasanton, California, and very similar to some of the other companies, just started out with an idea of wanting to be different, wanting to improve the world around us, and has since grown to 12,000 employees in 30 different countries, with 8,000 different customers. And really what Workday is, it's an all-inclusive platform where it's more than just the HR function, but it's financials, it's planning, it's expenses, it's time tracking, payroll, really a platform that offers an all-in-one experience, almost like if you think of Google Drive, right? When I was started as a freshman in college, it was you were using Microsoft Word for something, and have to put a thumb drive in and carry that to the library or a different computer. And Workday moved everything to the cloud and said, just like you have Google Slides, your Gmail account, everything all in one and in the cloud. That's really what Workday does as well, is allows you to do everything from the simplicity of your mobile app, and really puts customers first. So the focus on employees, the focus on customers, the 97% customer satisfaction rating, I think, is one thing that in particular sets Workday apart. And similar to what Cassie said too, I really enjoyed, just that support to other companies. I know even through the pandemic, there's been companies like Walmart, Disney, Amazon, Home Depot, who've reached out and shared, without Workday or some type of agile system to help us through this, it would have been a lot more difficult. So it's cool, every day, we're learning, we're growing, but it's something that we can all do together, and excited to talk to you guys a little bit more about that tonight.
Great. Thank you, Michael. This was a great introduction of all the companies. So let me give you just a quick overview of how I'd like to proceed. So I have several questions to ask, and I'm going to direct them at specific people. Other company reps, if you feel like you'd like to join in, please do so. We've got plenty of time. I want to make sure everyone gets a chance to chime in and talk about their strengths and their understanding of the industry. So this first question I'm directing to Michael at Workday. Michael, one of the questions I have is, what do you expect the growth of the HR software industry will be over the next 10 years or so? But the key question is it reasonable to think that a career in selling HR services would be long-term?
I'll answer the second part of that question first, and it's 100%. HR software is not going anywhere. In fact, it's becoming ever more important. I think about other jobs I'd had, where there wasn't some type of HR platform in place. And you even think about something as simple as submitting an expense report and having to, take a picture off your phone, type it into an Excel spreadsheet, email it to somebody else, just how manual and cumbersome that process was, to be able to do that all again in a system that allows you to do that seamlessly, really is improving the employee experience. And so, as companies continue to evolve and realize that need, that, just like you could walk into a Starbucks or a Cafe Rio and have a very user-friendly experience on an app, without having to wait in line, that's what we're expecting in the workplace now too, is a user-friendly experience where you could pull up your pay slip and understand everything and not need to wait for the check in the mail. So it will continue to become important. And I think for anyone interested in HR or sales, both are, very, HR software is a very great, field to be looking into right now. It will be more than just the 10 years down the road. I see this, 20, 30, 50 years down the road still being just as important.
And
Okay.
Tim, to add to that, we talked about it a lot when I was there back in, I think, 2012, 2013, about how HR is kind of becoming more and more important just in organizations globally. And, they're getting a seat at the table now. And we're finding that to absolutely be the case. The more we talk to HR folks, it is an absolutely critical role that is starting to be valued a lot more than it has been in the past.
So, and I'm going to keep it on you. As you think about that, can you talk a little bit about why sales in this space will be so important? Yeah,
HR people have so much going on as it stands today that they don't necessarily have the resources or the time. And I could be speaking, completely off base here, but my assumption is, and based on my interactions with my customers, is they can't go search, okay, let me go look at employee recognition programs and spend, weeks and weeks looking for it, right? Whatever they have works. It's not broken, so no need to fix it. And as a sales rep, if you want to call it that, it's, I take it as my responsibility to go out and stand out so it does catch their attention and it does end up saving the company. I'm working with a construction company right now. Just on their license fee alone, we're saving them $60,000, $70,000. Now, on a $1 billion company, that's not huge, but within the HR program, they are able to allocate that money elsewhere. And for me, it's critical to have a sales team in HR to be able to accomplish, increasing awareness, essentially.
Great, thank you. Any other panelists want to chime in on this question before we move to another one?
Yeah, I'd love to jump in here. I think sometimes we think of sales in a little bit of a narrow perspective. I really look at it as a person who brings solutions to the table, right? A really good person at sales understands and recognizes the way that your product or service can bring value to the table for that client, but also how it can really solve the central problems that organization is wrestling with. And it's yeah, sure, we're talking about HR software and HR things that support HR functions, but it's bigger than that. The only department in an organization that focuses across the entire spectrum of the organization is your HR team. That is the group that is focusing on the overall organizational health, not just the financial health, but the human health and the talent management and talent retention. And so when you talk about sales, HR, and combining those two together, you're really focusing in on the central kind of heartbeat of an organization and maintaining the health and success of a business. So I see it really as a good partnership and solving problems for businesses, which that's exciting, right? It's not just a job, but you're there to help create change and solve solutions that impact people's lives and bring success to organizations.
Thank you very much. So Cassie, I'm going to keep you up here. You're on my list for the next question. That's okay. The question is, how do commission-based sales positions compete with competitive base salaries offered for traditional HR positions?
Sorry, my mute wasn't coming off and I didn't want to get called out for you're on mute. So they're two different worlds, and it really depends on what you're looking to accomplish in your career. In the sales world and in the commission-based compensation models, it's really a component of, reward and risk tied to actual output, where your standard fixed or salary-based compensation models are going to be focusing more on market and what's going on in the market, the industry, kind of a definition of how a role impacts an organization. So they are two different models. At the end of the day, it's, do you know how to do your job well? Do you invest in the craft that you are in? And do you achieve excellence? The fun part about sales is the earning upside potential is big. I have known salespeople that earned more than their CEO, right? Because the earning potential is there. There's risk associated, but again, if you're dedicated to your craft, if you are willing to work hard, and not just hard as in long hours, but work smart, work effectively and efficiently, sales can be a fantastic career, and you can have great success. And I don't believe that kind of that old mindset of, if you were in sales, you never hung up the phone and stopped working, that you're online 24/7. In today's environment and world, that doesn't have to be the situation. Of course, each business is different, but I think sales can be a great career. And I get solicited almost every week by our sales team saying, when are you going to come join us? Come over to our side. Because I work with our HR department directly, but it's a fun opportunity, and I think it's got really great potential. And with the world going virtual, going online, the ability to be more effective as a salesperson, I think, is elevated. Now that everyone has had to embrace things like this, right? We're meeting in Zoom. In the old days, we'd all come together at a physical location. But now it expands access to markets and to individuals who previously we may have had barriers to get access to.
One of the conversations that led to this gathering is Sterling and I talking about the big consultative component of sales jobs. That it's less sales and more understanding what people's challenges are, and showing how a company's products and services can solve that. And that seems to fit very well with how people are trained in undergraduate business and undergraduate HR of consulting and solving problems. So any other panelists want to jump in on this question of how commission-based sales positions compare to competitive base salaries offered for traditional HR jobs?
Yeah, Tim, I'll talk on that. And it's one of the things that led me to going into sales. I think it's far superior, but that's just my own opinion. Like Cassie said, the earning potential is huge. We have a former dance teacher that made over $250,000 last year. She's 24. Like, that's insane. We have somebody who owned a couple bakeries previously, didn't even know how to type on a keyboard, and he made 220. And so it's, there's a lot of potential out there for the people who will, like Cassie said, really hone their craft. So.
Oh, Brian at Paycom, through the chat, it's coming in that you want to join in. Please do.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, here's the thing, and not, what Cassie and Kirk have said, should kind of reiterate that at the end of the day, like when you're coming out of college, your earning potential from a competitive base standpoint is never going to compete with a sales potential job, period. Like it's never going to compete. Like we have 23, 24-year-olds that, they pay off their student loans with a check, they're making hundreds of thousands of dollars a year and everything. Like when you're 23 years old, competitive base salaries are never going to compete with sales. Like that's just, that's the truth of it, like at the end of the day. So when it comes to, money and earning potentials, like sales is one of those positions that, you can be 22 years old and kind of in charge of your future in the sense of compensation. And I'll be the first to tell you guys that compensation is not everything. I always tell people, you want to find a company you identify well with on every level, whether that's culture, whether that's people you work with, or even just the location that's at, or the type of technology maybe you're selling. Those things really dwarf the money, because in sales, you're going to make the money. Like if you're doing well, you're going to make money in any sales job. But yeah, I chatting with students, as long as I have in this position, it's, if you're motivated by money, I would 100% consider looking at sales, because your earning potential just goes up drastically compared to any kind of competitive base salary out there.
Ryan, since I've got you on the line here, can you kind of distinguish between business to business sales, which these young men and women would be considering, than person to person sales?
Yeah, well, when you're thinking about business, it's more about long-term value than selling something, individually to, something, it's a much more complex consultative selling process than just, kind of initial need and then, solving that need and then it's over. A lot of, business to business sales is long. Sales process is very complex. There's a lot that goes into these deals when you're talking about, the cost that goes into purchasing, software that's going to change the fate of your company, and, we've chatted about digital transformation and what, companies like, Paycom are doing in the world is that we're helping companies keep their doors open. So, yeah, when it comes to business, it's, back on the money thing, it's probably going to be more lucrative because the deals are bigger. But ultimately it ties back to value in consulting, more than anything, and that's what I've always tried to, pass along to students is that, Paycom's sales force are more sales consultants. They're meeting with C-level executives. They're creating an enormous amount of value by showing these companies what, a future, with or without digital transformation can look like. So yeah, as far as business goes, that's the way to, that's the way to go for sure.
Any other panelists want to jump in on this question before we move to another one?
Tim, I feel like I keep jumping in on everything, but with what Ryan was saying, I do think it's very, like, you got to understand your personality as well. Some people want that high turn, the churn and burn for, they go consumer, business to consumer, and that fits their personality really well. You look at a company like Weave. Weave is selling dental software to dentists, and it's a one-call close for a lot of these. Whereas, you look at Paycom, Workday, Bamboo, AwardCo, it's a long sales cycle. I just closed the deal. I started working in November 2019, and that you've got to understand your personality types as well. I think it's crucial that if you can't keep working through something, knowing that you'll get a benefit at the end, or you may not, the quicker hits might be more fitting for your personality.
To add on to that, Ryan mentioned this, but when you're doing B2B, there's a level of sophistication, and it's actually really exciting because you think about the business prowess that you build and the business literacy and acumen that you build, because you are working with senior leaders. You're talking to CFOs, you're talking to CEOs, you're talking to decision makers, not just someone who's like exploring an option kind of thing. And so where else do you get that kind of time with CEO, CFO? You get FaceTime, you're discussing, you're bringing ideas to the table, you're solution and problem solving, you're talking kind of about root cause scenarios and opportunities. Those are awesome experiences to have and to build a career on getting good at that. And yeah, you need to be personal, you need to be authentic and build relationships, but it's also bringing forward that business acumen as you go through that complexity of identifying that right fit between organizational needs and what your software or product can provide for them.
Thank you very much.
I'd like to chime in, Tim, if that's cool.
Please, yes.
I kind of want to follow up what Kirk was saying was, because I liked what you were talking about, is kind of understanding where your personality lies, and paying attention when you're looking at, all of our, these different companies, is understanding their target market, because it falls right in line with the different types of sales cycles that they target. So like SMB, small to medium sized businesses like Bamboo, you can have like a one call close all the way to a few months, versus like enterprise, where it is kind of a longer sales cycle, and figuring out, do you want those quicker wins? Do you want the longer cycles with bigger deals? It's like just figuring out where you feel like you'll find your own personal success, where you will feel fulfilled in these roles. So I just want to kind of add on to that.
Thank you very much. Other comments from a panelist before we move on to the next question? Okay, so this next question is for Ryan at Paycom. Ryan, can you talk to us about what type of quotas are typically expected of a sales rep in this industry space?
Yeah. Well, I can't speak for everyone else, and that's one thing I'll really highlight, is that every company's got a different structure of how evaluation is put into place. Quotas and expectations. And that's one thing that I think is really great about sales, is that I'd like to think that every company is going to give you pretty consistent communication in the sense of like where you stand. If you're 50% of your plan and it's there's a month left of the year, you're probably going to know that. If you're above plan, obviously you're probably going to know that as well. But I think with any sales professional out there, they are the ones that do really well, I think, always kind of know where they're at. They always know where they're at. But as far as quotas go for Paycom specifically, we have an annual quota for all of our sales force. But one thing I really like about our sales force and what they do is that they have, expectations every week, month, quarter, and annually to help you kind of have a pathway to achieve that goal. So instead of it just being like, hey, here's your annual quota, good luck. We're going to provide you steps and a pathway to achieve that goal, each week, each month, based on, the success of our sales force over the last 23 years. So it's not something they just kind of come up with randomly. They understand that to get to that quota, this is probably the level of expectation and volume you're going to need to see every day and every week and every month and every quarter to achieve that long-term annual quota. So yeah, somewhat of a vague answer and everything, but one thing, what I'll say obviously is that Paycom is very clear with the expectations of their quota. All incoming sales reps are going to know where they stand, pretty much coming in day one.
Other panelists want to chime in on this?
I'm happy to add a little bit to that. I like what Ryan said, and I think when thinking about a quota, another way to approach it is, if you're goal oriented and you really like to see that progress, I think the quota can be very satisfying. I think there's maybe certain jobs where you don't know where you stand, and you may be working really hard and wondering, am I making a difference? How do I measure my progress? But one thing that's nice about working towards that goal is you see that potential, you see that progress. And it's just like, in your personal life, right? You may have a New Year's resolution to run the Boston Marathon, and maybe you set a goal, I'm going to run, 200 miles before I, attempt to qualify. And as you see yourself progressing there in your personal running habits, and you get there and you can achieve that goal, it's really exciting. And then, to the previous question on over attaining and that, variable pay that comes in, once you've reached that Boston Marathon and you just keep running, then your bank account really benefits from that as well. So it's exciting. It does take a little getting used to, but like Ryan said, it's not a number that you're given without any support, right? You have a team, you have, a a manager, you have others who are there to cheer you on and help you be successful. But it also requires that internal motivation to say, I can do this, and I'm ambitious enough to chase after it.
That's great. Any other panelists? Okay, so this next question is for you, Michael, at Workday. And you hinted at this, but I want to be a little more specific. What types of training and support does your company provide to new sales reps?
Yeah, good question. So everybody goes through a 2-week onboarding process when you join, and that's really where you're looking at, what does the sales process look like? What's the methodology? What is Workday, right? What are you calling other people to talk about? So really understanding, Workday from within, and then, being prepared to have conversations with, the CIO, the CFO. I remember the very first time I was, getting in touch with the CHRO of GameStop. I was terrified, right? we had a box at the Dallas Cowboys game, and we were inviting the GameStop CHRO to attend and hear a presentation on Workday. And had I known at the time, I probably would have gotten a little bit of stock at the, that could have been good. But anyway, calling her on the phone and saying, hey, would you like to come? And realizing that she is a normal human being, just like anyone else. I think sometimes we can be afraid of titles, and you hear about, these big companies or these, people who've done amazing things, and we can have that imposter syndrome, right? Where we're afraid to reach out. But once you realize that there are people there to help you be successful, you'll go through a training, you have teammates who want you to succeed. I think that makes a big difference, and something you can look for. Not all sales companies are the same. That of the 4 you see here today. Not all HR companies. Sometimes sales can be really cutthroat. But I think one thing that we could all probably speak to is more to that collaboration, right, where others want you to succeed, and so you can lean on each other for that.
Thank you. And any other panelists want to chime in on training and support for new sales reps?
Yeah, I'd like to chime in on this. One thing I'll tell you about, I think every company, hopefully every company has some form of training, that they're going to offer. And if they don't, that may be a red flag for you. Obviously everyone's different in their expectations. But yeah, one of the things I always kind of relay to students is that if you get a job, and obviously personal context here with Paycom is that if you get the job at Paycom, everyone believes that you can do it and do it at a high level already. Whether that's, the recruiter, the manager, the regional vice president, or even, higher level, professionals in the sales side of the company, they all believe that you have earned that job. And so, yeah, I think the imposter syndrome is big. People that are like, man, now that I've got this, I don't want to screw it up. And I feel like I'm not really sure if I've earned this opportunity compared to some of these other people that I'm working with who are just so professional and so high level. But yeah, I think one thing I always, and I'm sure I'd like to think that every company is like this, that if you get the job, like no one's like necessarily gunning for you. I know in sales, it is very cutthroat, like Michael said, that's a really good point. But I think for the most part, at minimum, hopefully your manager and your team are supporting you more or less. So I think that that's something to, as you're interviewing for jobs, to keep that in mind, when it comes to culture and, is the team supportive and strategic for your goals and helping you kind of achieve them by learning from each other? Or is it more like, kind of a lonesome dove kind of thing and you're just kind of on your own and not a lot of support? So yeah, I think that all these things really make a big difference when it comes to picking that right opportunity.
Okay, thank you. Any other panelists?
I would just add, these are really good questions to ask in an interview process. So as you are looking at interviewing with people, ask them, what does your onboarding process look like? What training's provided? What quotas are expected of me? That's something that, you'll get a good indication of how well ran the sales organization is by asking those types of questions.
To tag on to that, you'd also want to make sure that you understand what is the lead flow like, right? Is it outbound? Is it cold calling? Is it inbound? Is it warm leads? When you understand that, when you understand the market you're going for, and then you understand the training that's provided, it really helps you recognize what it's going to feel like on a day-to-day basis. But yeah, I think most organizations provide training. If they don't, that's a definitely steep learning curve. But again, if you care about your craft and if you're dedicated to achieving excellence, it goes back to the one-on-ones, right? Do you know how to work hard? Do you know how to work smart? Do you know how to build relationships and problem solve? And as you're in your academic pursuits right now, that's a lot of what you're practicing, right? Is you're taking in new information and then learning how to apply it. And that's at the end of the day, what you want to do, both through your selection process, but also once you get into a job and you're just kind of set free to do it, it's find those problems and solve them.
Cassie, could I ask you to define those 4 lead terms that you just went through real quick?
Sure. Now I got to remember which ones I said. Okay. So outbound, depending on how the marketing of the business is run, right? You can have leads that are coming in and it's kind of live calls and they're considered warm leads. So specifically at Bamboo HR, that's how we work. We have people reaching out saying, I would like to learn about Bamboo HR. And so we have a process that they are kind of screened and initially evaluated. Are they even remotely close to a good fit before it even goes to our sales floor? So that we're trying to really provide quality. And so when you talk about inbound and warm leads, it's those 2 things, people coming to you and the nature of how close a fit that you might be, how probable a sale could be. The other one is the outbound and cold calling, where you have contact lists or information and you're reaching out to businesses to see if there's an interest. You're trying to create the connections, the relationship. Think of your inbox and all of the spam and advertisement that we get. Sometimes that's where it starts, and sometimes it's just the individual out there kind of mining and looking for businesses and opportunities that they think are going to fit well.
Great. Thank you. Any other panelists on this topic of these requirements? Okay, so Cassie, this question is, I'm sorry, please go ahead.
Sorry, my mute wasn't working either. Okay, so just to kind of add on to what Cassie was just saying, is one question to ask is, when a company says prospecting, find out what that actually means for that company, because it can mean different things. It might mean like, hey, you're just left on your own. So I'm a in-town acquisition. So if I speak to certain things, that's kind of where it's coming from. But prospecting at some companies could mean like, you're kind of left on your own to kind of go out and search on your own to find these other leads. At Bamboo, prospecting is a little bit different. It might be the same thing at some other companies too, is like, we give you a list of marketing leads that just kind of fell off. Maybe they downloaded some information and never got to the sales development team, the ones who are warming up the calls, so you're given like an actual list to like click through. So you're not kind of left to your own devices. So when you're over there trying to figure out companies to look at, like, ask that question, kind of try to understand what their terms mean to them, because it can mean different things at different companies.
Great. Thank you, Vanessa. Any other comments from the panelists on this? Before I move on to the next question, just a reminder for participants that I only have a few more questions left, and I'd love to take questions from you. So if you feel like I'm not hitting on the things that are most important to you, please chime in through chat, and I will make sure to get that question out there. So Cassie from Bamboo HR, this is a question for you. What kind of travel requirements would you expect for an HR salesperson at your organization?
At our organization, it's from your bed to your computer, because we're all still remote. But once we all get back into office, it's literally just the commute to the office. There is, you can work remotely as a sales rep if you want and have a work from home setting, but it's just coming to the office. We are an inside sales organization, so there's 0 travel. Your travel is your paid vacation, where you go out and enjoy some time away from work.
I didn't know that. Thank you. Other panelists, what's the travel requirements for sales reps in your organization?
Yeah, so with Paycom specifically, I mean, it's kind of echo what Cassie said. Yeah, it's kind of a bed to the in-office workspace, for most of us and everything right now. So I think sometime in 2021 we'll probably start to make that move back. And when we do, our sales reps, they're an outside sales force for the most part. We have an inside sales force that's a much smaller portion of our company that, works more inside, in office specifically. But our outside sales reps, they travel, around their office in a designated territory. So it's a territory position. So they travel to meet their clients face to face. I would say the most they're driving is, a couple hours. Obviously that depends on where you're at. Chicago, anywhere really, California. I mean, there's definitely some states that offer much more congested traffic. But yeah, I mean, as far as Paycom goes, our reps are in the field about 50% of their week. The rest of it is back in the office, kind of strategizing with their team and making outbound calls. So yeah, it really, I mean, it's based on it's company based more than anything.
Michael, at Workday, what's the travel look like at your organization?
I would say similar to Ryan, for the account executives, 50% is probably a fair assumption. You're getting on a plane or you are assigned a territory close to where you live. And so, but that being said, there is an inside sales team that can do some of those transactions over Zoom. And, but really to be able to demo and show, everything that Workday has to offer, it's typically better to be on site and be able to show all of that. But, for the time being, at least through August, it's all going to be remote. And I think I'm sure all companies are even evaluating, what was done this way, this time last year, I think will look different in the future because people are realizing, we can work differently. And so it'll be interesting to see, but that's how it was before the pandemic.
And Kirk, anything on your organization about traveling?
So I joined in November 2019, right during open enrollment. So there was like no traveling happening then. And then as I got things going, was about to start setting up travel, and then COVID hit. So to this day, I've never traveled for AwardCo. Previously, I mean, it was once or twice a month, maybe once or twice a quarter. It just depended. If it's a large customer and you're going out and participating in an RFP presentation, like, yeah, you're getting on that plane and going. But yeah, like I said, since I've been here, everybody's adjusted to remote, and I don't see that changing for a little while. So yeah.
So Brian, this is a question that came in through chat. I'm just going to pick you to take on this question. I'm going to read. This is from Jared Patterson, and he says, "What type of career growth is available in sales? What are some of the typical career ladders?"
Yeah, that's a great question. And a question I get consistently because, I think with any job you want to hear about, the growth opportunities. And so with Paycom specifically, we promote based on performance. And I know that it's not solely that, obviously we have, sales reps that have been in the role for multiple years that are crushing it, that are very much just happy kind of being an individual contributor. But if management is something you want, like Paycom has a pretty much like designated path of success. You look at, I've been with the company for over 5 years, and I have worked with people who, came out of college and joined our sales force and are now in managerial roles. When I first started, I worked with a regional vice president who started out of college, had made his way through, as a high performing sales rep, was a manager of multiple offices, was a regional vice president, and then was promoted pretty much after my first year into a position that did not exist. Like the job was created for him. He's been in that role and has since been promoted again. And this is a guy that, is not, he is an executive level vice president of sales. And so this is not someone on the verge of retirement. I mean, this is somebody that is, not relatively, I think as old as people would think in the sense of like his success. And I think Paycom is a path for that in the sense that if you want to come in and work hard and see that success, they do not keep good people in one place for long. So every company's different. But, I think with sales, like if you're looking for rapid advancement, I think sales is definitely, something that comes, the promotions come from more of your success. So if you're doing really well, most companies are probably not going to keep you in one spot for long, and that just goes back to the different hierarchies and the different structures of the company. So, I think Kirk said this earlier, like that's a great question to ask, a recruiter you're talking with or a manager. I've had managers get, sales reps that I've hired get promoted in 13 months. Some people have gotten promoted in 4 years. It just kind of depends on, the success they've seen, but also kind of where they want to be. Some people want to kind of earn that way and get there on their own timing rather than, making it more of a race. So yeah, that's a great question.
Other panelists want to jump in on this issue.
Yeah, I'll jump in here. So in my position working in HR, I do a lot of career coaching. And I like to take that question and make sure that we don't think about it through the narrow lens of it must be a step hierarchical ladder. When we talk about career success and career progression, there's multiple components. Number one, there's personal and professional. You can be growing in ways that are so powerful personally without having a title change or a career change associated with it. You can look at, do you want to be somebody who has deep, specific expertise and you climb kind of that ladder, whether it goes through a management perspective or a principal perspective, or sometimes you take the approach of really having broad shoulders and you have a wide variety of versatile skills that enable you to do other things than necessarily one track. So like at Bamboo HR, yeah, you can say, I want to have a full-fledged career and stay in sales because of the things I like and how it maps to my strengths. And you can have a growth path from our sales development into levels of sales account reps that we have. You could climb into leadership, or perhaps you go sideways into expansion sales where it's a whole different thing. You're working with current clients and you're much more involved in consulting and measuring ROI on the value that they're getting out of it. Or maybe you go into the training and enablement arm and you're someone who's helped to train and teach and grow sales reps. Maybe you go into the product marketing arm. So again, as you think about, career progression and growth, yes, there's a very traditional ladder. You grow 1, 2, 3, and you become the manager. But I think career growth has definitely become more meaningful than that. And I don't want to overemphasize the career part because there's still that personal part where people grow and you become better humans and you have a richer, more fuller life, and your career should be a part of that.
If I can jump in, just add on to what Cassie said, because she's 100% right. And I think, let's all take a flashback to high school for just a moment. When you think of, the people who, the SBO, student body officers who have their fancy jackets and walk around the school thinking like, hey, I'm so cool. Like sometimes it's, people get in their head, like, in order to be successful, I need a promotion or I need a fancy jacket or a pay raise. And I think what Cassie said is 100% true, that the question we should be asking ourselves is, am I challenging myself every day? Am I becoming complacent in my role, or am I finding opportunities to meaningfully grow? And one of the things that I've really enjoyed about Workday, for example, is something called the opportunity marketplace. So, in your role, you have the opportunity to kind of cross-train and learn from different areas of the business. And so if you're in sales but want to learn a little bit more about customer success, you could take on an opportunity with the customer success team and job shadow and learn while you're still doing your role, but take opportunities to get to know different parts of the business and really challenge yourself to be more well-rounded. But then at the same time, similar to what Ryan said, you can be rewarded on that performance and grow, climb the ladder, so to speak, so that you can, be growing in your current role if you'd like to stay that route, but also explore different areas of the business. So,
before joining the faculty here at Utah State, I taught in 2 different MBA programs. And of course, one of the top students in an MBA program is someone with an engineering degree. Companies really go crazy over engineering degree combined with an MBA. But second most popular are young men and women that have solid B2B sales experience combined with the MBA. And so as you're thinking about your career plans right out of undergrad, getting this great 2, 3, 5 years of experience in business to business sales will prepare you for a lot of careers, but also prepare you for to be very popular in a graduate program of your choice. Anybody else on that topic of career paths? So Kirk, then my next question is directed towards you. You hinted at this a little bit, but I want to be a little more specific about this. What would you say is the difference between someone that is moderately successful in sales and someone who is extremely successful in sales?
That's a really good question. For me, it's consistency. I guess it depends on the sales role, right? It's being genuine in your outreach, giving your customers an experience rather than just trying to sell to them, and being consultative, as Cassie mentioned earlier. And then the other thing I would say is the pleasant persistence. You know, like I mentioned, in fact, just today I booked a demo with somebody I started reaching out to. November 20th, 2019 is my first email to her, and we just booked a demo today. And so it's been pleasant persistence, and you know, going through different avenues such as LinkedIn, phone calls, video messages, on being able to get that. That's my opinion. I'm sure the other panelists have a lot of insight into that as well. But yeah.
Other panelists, what distinguishes a moderately good sales rep from a just extremely successful one?
So,
So
yeah.
go ahead, Ryan.
No, go ahead, Cassie.
Okay, sorry, we keep doing that. Twins.
You're good. You're good.
I was just gonna say, so again, going back to my role in HR, right? I work with managers who are working with sales reps. And so I see the spectrum of who's successful and who's not. The patterns that I see are you have to have individual drive, right? No one's going to make you do your job for you. So do you have that? I think most of us do. But then it's really about, do you know what your leading behaviors are? So a lot of times as you build your pipeline for sales, right, you're trying to hit quota, and yet the reps that I see who are consistently successful or who turn around a slump are the ones who go back to the basic and fundamentals. I know I need to make this many dials, this many quotes, this many demos, right? And when they build kind of that flywheel of just doing it day in and day out, and when they identify all those preliminary steps and stick to them, they are successful. And when they kind of sit back on their laurels and say, well, I can probably just rely on my charm for a couple of days and I can back off of this activity or behavior, that's when they start to see that their pipeline suffers, their quota attainment starts to suffer, and then it gets frustrating. And then I watch people who do that and then stop doing it and then go back in and then stop. And so the more consistent you can be in those constant behaviors, the more successful reps are.
Right?
Yeah. So just to kind of reiterate that, I think as far as like truly successful, again, I think it kind of ties back to a couple of different things. Number one is, what is your value of success? Like where are you pulling success? Is it promotions? Is it money? Is it long-term success and long-term growth? Because, you know, I think everyone's got a different perspective of what that true success means. You know, I think is it being you know, somebody who is very, very confident in their abilities, you know, somebody who feels like they've mastered it, you know, which with sales, like, I don't think you can ever really master, but I think you can get really good at it, obviously. But I think it comes down to more about your level of success and, you know, what you look at, what that means to you as an individual. Because, you know, I think it ties back to, you know, the internal drive component, which is obviously crucial in sales, because, you know, in sales, you've got to have that. You got to have that kind of competitive drive to bring you back to, you know, that position each and every day. Because, you know, and everyone on here can agree with this, is that sales is going to be challenging work. It's also very rewarding. But, you know, if you're motivated by certain things and your level and your passion of success is like, hey, I want to be a manager before I'm, you know, 28, then that's going to be a level of success. And then I think Michael said it earlier, you know, you hit that Boston Marathon and then you just kind of keep running. And usually, you know, your goals shift and change as you get older and older. So that's kind of what I was going to add to that.
Any other comments from panelists on that, of what distinguishes a moderately successful from a very successful sales rep?
I would just add one thing in addition to what everyone else has said. It's organization. Anybody who's joining into sales has some level of grit to be able to go and chase and pursue. But I heard something when I joined that stuck with me since day one, and it was a mentor of mine. She said, anybody who's willing to work hard can hit their number, but anybody who can work hard and be organized about it will blow it out of the water. And I didn't understand that on day one, but I think it really goes back to something Kirk said, right? When he sent that initial email back in November of 2019, if he would have received that initial no, or the prospect pushed off for whatever reason, and if he would have let that fall through the crack, he wouldn't have just sold that deal or done that demo, a year and a half later. And because Kirk was organized and stayed persistent, he's seen that success now. So I would just say, be organized. You can practice that today, right? In your school work and everything that you're doing, stay organized and keep that ability to work hard.
So thank you to all the panelists. This has been very enlightening. I know I've learned a great deal. One of the things that started this conversation between Sterling and I is this, as he talked about, this synergy between human resource knowledge and skills and how you might use that in a HR company. I hope that this has given you, those in SHRM, a chance to look at opportunities outside of traditional HR. When I think about a business degree, I think of more of like a liberal studies degree. You learn a lot of different things about a lot of different areas. Corporate HR is a fantastic route, but there's also many, many other routes. I think this hopefully gives you a good chance to look at other opportunities.